The Knocking at 3:03 a.m. Part 2. The one who opened the door that night, after the hissing sound outside finally disappeared, no one in the house managed to sleep again. Grandpa pulled me to sit beside the family altar. He lit 3 sticks of incense. The smoke slowly filled every corner of the house. I was still trembling. One question kept echoing inside my head. What was the thing that had called my name? Grandpa stayed silent for a long time before finally speaking. Do you know why everyone in this village fears 3:03 a.m.? I shook my head. He let out a heavy sigh. Because someone once opened the door. I looked at him. The stern expression I had always known was gone. Only fear remained. The fear of a man who had witnessed something no human should ever see. More than 30 years ago, there was a family living near the end of the riverside. Every night, at exactly 3:03 a.m., they heard knocking on their front door. At first, they ignored it, but on the 7th night, the mother heard her little son's voice calling from outside. The boy had drowned months earlier. She couldn't bear it. She opened the door. The next morning, the entire family of 4 had vanished. Inside the house, only muddy footprints remained, leading from the front door all the way into the bedroom. There were no bodies, no blood. It was as if they had never existed. From that day on, no one in the village ever dared open the door at 3:03 a.m. I swallowed hard. But if nobody opens it, it will come back. Grandpa nodded. Yes, and every time it returns, it gets closer. Those words sent a freezing chill down my spine. What do you mean? Grandpa stared at the front door. It knows you now, and it won't give up. For the next week, I tried to fall asleep before 10 every night. Yet as 3 a.m. approached, I always woke up. I never needed a clock. I simply knew. Because the room suddenly became unbearably cold. The air grew so heavy, as if someone was standing right beside my bed. On the first night, the knocking came from the front door. On the second night, it moved to my bedroom window. On the third night, it came from the wall behind me, as though someone was trapped inside the wall, knocking from the other side. Knock, knock, knock. Each knock came exactly 3 seconds apart. I pulled the blanket over my head, closed my eyes as tightly as I could. Only when morning arrived did the knocking finally stop. On the 5th night, I woke up with the unmistakable feeling that someone was watching me. I opened my eyes. My bedroom door was still closed. No one was there. But the wooden chair beside my desk had turned to face my bed. I clearly remembered leaving it facing the desk before I slept. I tried convincing myself that I had simply forgotten. Then, the chair made a sound. Creak. Slowly, it began sliding across the floor, not quickly, as though an invisible person had just sat down. I held my breath. The chair stopped, facing my bed. At that exact moment, I heard a tiny laugh, a child's laugh. He. I slammed on the light. Everything returned to normal. The chair stood perfectly still, but on the seat, there was a tiny muddy handprint. The next morning, I told Grandma everything. Her face immediately turned pale. Without saying a word, she knelt beside the bed and opened an old wooden chest. Inside were dozens of faded talismans. There was also a small bronze bell and a red string. She tied the red string around my wrist. No matter what happens, never take this off. I asked why. She only replied, it was the last thing your great-grandfather left behind. It once saved your grandfather's life. I looked at Grandpa. He lowered his head. He didn't deny it. For the first time, I realized Grandma and Grandpa knew far more than they had ever told me. That afternoon, a stranger arrived in the village. He was an old man wearing a worn brown robe, leaning on a bamboo cane. He walked from one end of the village to the other, carefully studying every house. When he reached ours, he stood silently outside the gate for a long time. Then he asked Grandpa, "Is this the boy?" Grandpa quietly nodded. The old man looked straight at me. His eyes were filled with pity. "It has marked the boy. From now on, no matter where he goes, it will follow him." I felt my heart stop. Who is following me? The old man didn't answer. Instead, he reached into his robe and took out a small bronze mirror. Its surface had turned nearly black with age. He placed it in my hands. If one day you hear someone calling your name from behind, don't turn around. Look into this mirror and remember, what appears inside the mirror will never look the same, as whatever is standing behind you. Before I could ask another question, the old man had already turned and walked away. Just before disappearing behind the bamboo grove, he called out one final sentence. Tomorrow night, it will enter the house. I stood frozen. At that very moment, at the far end of the muddy road leading into the village, a figure dressed entirely in white stood motionless beneath the pouring rain. It was too far away to make out the face, yet somehow I could feel it staring directly at me. Then, slowly, it raised one hand and waved. Only once. Then it disappeared. That night, I had no idea. It would be the last time my grandparents' house would ever know peace. To be continued in part 3.